Hi everyone, I am Jamie Fries-Miller. I'm a certified holistic health coach, and this is the re-recording of my masterclass, Planting the Seeds for a Healthy Pregnancy, What Your Doctor Might Not Tell You About Trying to Conceive. So I held this masterclass live last night, and for whatever reason, some malfunction happened and it didn't record. So I am re-recording it all for you guys to reference and for those who couldn't attend live. I did a poll on Instagram about what advice did your doctor tell you about trying to conceive if you visited your doctor before planning a pregnancy. And by far, the most information that I got or what you guys all said was to stop hormonal birth control or whatever form of birth control you were using, and to take a prenatal, and that was it. But there's a lot more to trying to conceive than just taking a prenatal. Everyone's body's different. Basically, what we learned in high school health is pretty irrelevant when it comes to actually trying to conceive. The window is much shorter per month than what we have been led to believe, that if you have sex, you will get pregnant. So I wanted to put together something that lays down the basics of things that you can do to help prepare your mind and body for pregnancy. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you have any questions that come up after the presentation, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at A Nourishing Path. So I'm going to share my screen and get going. So here you can see my Instagram handle is at the bottom. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. So who am I? I am a certified holistic health coach, and I specialize in helping women prepare their mind and bodies before they get pregnant, ideally. And the reason behind this is because the health of mom pre-conception has a huge outcome on the health of baby, the health of the pregnancy, the health of the mom postpartum. And I love to work with women who are passionate about living their best lives. And so starting preconception, I'm not only helping mom have a healthier pregnancy, the better outcome for the baby, but also we work on things that she can carry into motherhood to be the mom she wants and create the life she wants. So once I became a mom myself, I just became really passionate about helping other moms become moms themselves. So I also have a master's degree in anthropology. My son is 2 years old now. But my own personal health journey really began with my diagnosis of celiac disease and Hashimoto's. So this autoimmunity, my diagnosis wasn't until age 21. And it wasn't until age 24 that I realized I needed to make my health a top priority in my life. At that time, I had just finished up my graduate degree. I was pretty underweight, but luckily, I had the stress of grad school was removed from my life. So that was a plus. But at 24 years old, I was underweight. I now know that was due to malabsorption of nutrients because of the state of my gut. So again, I had celiac disease. My gut was destroyed. I wasn't absorbing nutrients, even though I was eating a primarily healthy diet. Also at this time, I went off hormonal birth control because I knew it wasn't helping me. I didn't like how I felt on it. I also started using thyroid medication. And so there was a lot going on at age 24 to help me prioritize my health. For me, anxiety was a big thing that I noticed in my life that started to go away as soon as I reduced my stress load of not being in school, got off hormonal birth control, and started to optimize my thyroid health. And so it's really important to start listening to your body. It's all after the fact that we notice there were things going on, such as, for me, my anxiety got worse when I started hormonal birth control, but I didn't make that connection. And so because I was no longer on birth control, I needed to also figure out a way to track my fertility. And I started to use the fertility awareness method and track my basal body temperature, which helped narrow down my fertile window. And we'll talk about that. So I then spent the next 4 years between age 24 and age 28 when I conceived my son, repairing my gut, removing foods that no longer worked for my body, and adding in supplementation through the guidance of functional medicine practitioners. I also reduced stress in multiple ways through things like yoga, starting to ride horses again, and a big one that I can't stress enough is removing toxins from my environment. So in 2018, my husband and I decided we were going to start our trying to conceive journey. And I explained to him that I thought it could take a year or more because of my thyroid issues. My mom had experienced miscarriage, so that was lingering on my mind as well. And ultimately, we had a very easy time conceiving. And I'm looking back on it now on my personal experience, I know that the time I took to commit to my health played a huge role in the ease of our conception. And that is why I wanted to work with other women pre-conception, is because laying that foundation for a healthy body will decrease things like infertility and possible miscarriages. And so my approach is more of a preventative approach. We don't wait that, a year long when your says come back to me in a year if you are not pregnant by then. Wait for that year to happen. We're proactive and we act in a way that will hopefully prevent some of these issues. So in this class, we're going to discuss things like using fertility awareness method to narrow down your fertile window for timing of intercourse or insemination if you're using alternative methods. We'll also talk about nutrients that are optimal for fetal development, but also for boosting fertility. And I want to just point out that these nutrients are super nutrient dense. The nutrients that we are talking about are going to be optimal for fetal development, but optimal for a body trying to conceive because they're great for your cellular health. And if you think about what happens during conception is you are preparing an egg to drop during ovulation for it to get fertilized. And an egg is a single cell that will then, once fertilized, rapidly develop. And so cellular health is extremely important. So when you're taking care of your body on a cellular level, then the egg quality is going to improve. When you are pregnant, you're going to have the nutrients that you need for baby to grow and develop. These nutrients also are great for repairing body postpartum. And so I want to be eating them now so that you continue to crave and eat them into motherhood. And finally, we're going to talk about self-care that is good for preparing the mind and body for pregnancy. These are self-care things that anyone can be doing because I know self-care can be highly individualized based on your personal lifestyle. So let's get into it. The fertility awareness method has 3 components: basal body temperature, cervical mucus, and cervical position. You've maybe heard of this before, but you haven't quite utilized it yourself. I'm going to give you a basic overview of the method. Starting with basal body temperature. So basal body temperature is your temperature first thing in the morning. It is, you want to take it with a thermometer that measures two places past the decimal point for the most optimal reading or most accurate reading. And you want to take it ideally the same time every morning. First thing before you take a drink of water, before you take any medications, before you get up to go to the bathroom, before you brush your teeth. So if you use an alarm to wake up, shut off your alarm, pick up your thermometer. You'll get the most accurate reading if you leave the thermometer in your mouth for 5 to 10 minutes before you turn it on. You'll notice that it comes to temperature, you turn it on, and it beeps pretty fast, which means that that's an accurate temperature. It doesn't fluctuate while you have to keep it in your mouth. You then want to record that temperature using an app or a paper chart. There's so many apps today, so if you don't know which one to use, feel free to send me a DM, and I can tell you some of my favorites. I've used a bunch of different ones to see which one I like best, and I've stuck with one now for a couple of months, so it's, good to find one that you like. So why is basal body temperature something that you should be using? It helps confirm ovulation. So it doesn't tell you when you're ovulating, but it tells you that you did ovulate. So you want to start, whenever you start in your cycle, you'll want to mark what day of your cycle it is, because in your cycle, you'll have two phases, pre-ovulation and post-ovulation. Pre-ovulation, your temperature should be on the lower side. This is day 1 of your cycle is when you start bleeding. And the first phase goes all the way up until ovulation. And then from ovulation until when you start bleeding again is the second phase. So follicular phase is the first phase, luteal phase is the second phase. And how your basal body temperature confirms ovulation is an increase in temperature. About 0.5 degrees, you'll notice will occur after ovulation. And this happens because there is a rise in progesterone once you ovulate. And progesterone is what increases your temperature. And that increase can only happen if you have sufficient amount of progesterone, which happens once you ovulate because the egg leaves the ovary and there it leaves this hole, essentially, which becomes its own thing called the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum is what produces the progesterone. So pre-ovulatory, you'll see your temperature is a little bit lower. A sustained temp increase for 3 days post-ovulation, you'll know that you ovulated. All right, so cervical mucus, this one is pretty interesting. So cervical mucus can keep sperm alive in the vaginal canals for up to 5 days. So if you are not experiencing cervical mucus, you may have an hormonal imbalance where you're low in estrogen, because estrogen is what produces the cervical mucus. And so as estrogen begins to rise leading up to ovulation, you begin to see the cervical mucus. And again, this is different for everyone. Everyone has different amounts. So if you are not someone who sees a ton of discharge, I recommend wiping before you urinate so that you can kind of try and see if there's any then. Or if you're in the shower and you feel comfortable exploring inside, you can do that as well to see if there's any type of mucus that maybe the volume's not a lot, but it's there. So typically it starts out as more of a lotion, thicker type of mucus, and as you approach ovulation, it becomes more like an egg white, and that's closer to your peak cervical mucus. The more egg white it is, the better it is for the environment for the sperm to survive. And so cervical mucus can be an extremely useful tool if it is present during your cycle, pre-ovulation, to use it as a method of timing intercourse. So because the sperm stays alive, timing intercourse before ovulation based on cervical mucus rather than waiting to test with a ovulation test kit or a predictor kit, which only measures hormone levels in your urine and doesn't actually confirm ovulation. This can be useful. So a lot of people think that they need to time intercourse on the day of ovulation, but the egg is only viable for so long. So if you miss that window, it can be really hard. Whereas if you use cervical mucus as a tool to time intercourse as soon as it's present, and maybe do it every day leading up to ovulation or every other day leading up to ovulation. That increases your chances of fertilization. And the third one is cervical position. I personally do not use this method because I have success with just the other two. But again, everyone's different. So if you're not noticing a ton of cervical mucus, you may want to add testing for cervical position. Ideally, when you think about the uterus and the vaginal canal, your cervix is the opening between the two. And so leading up to ovulation, you want the cervix to be higher, closer to the uterus, and more open and soft so that the sperm can get in. And during the rest of the month, you want your cervix to be lower, harder, and more closed to prevent things from getting into the uterus, because anytime you insert anything into the vagina, it can increase the chance of infection, which you don't want, of course. So make sure that your hands are clean if you're doing this. It's best, in order to notice the subtle changes, to do this every single day. So if the other two are working for you, great, and you don't feel the need to test cervical position, that's fine. But if you think that you need one more metric, then this one is here for you. Doing it if you shower daily, that's a great opportunity to do that one. So I mentioned this a little bit, why the ovulation predictor kits is accurate, because they're just measuring an LH surge. So if you have irregular periods and you get frequent surges in LH, then you aren't confirming ovulation. So these kits are not always accurate. And even though I recommend using an app to record your temperature, I don't want you to rely on the app for telling you when you're fertile, because those are based on algorithms, usually on the 28-day model. So it's going to automatically predict your ovulation around day 14, but your diet and lifestyle can really affect your hormones. And so you may ovulate a little bit later. It's important to know that not everyone ovulates on day 14. So menstrual cycle is basically your monthly report card. And it can tell you a lot about your overall health. So you can start asking yourself questions. Is my cycle regular? Am I experiencing PMS? Is my cycle irregular, coming like longer than 36 days, 38 days every month? It's inconsistent. You don't know when your period's going to come again. You don't know if you're ovulating. It's important to know that this is your body's way of talking to you. And even if your cycle is regular, that's your body saying, things are great, let's keep going. So symptoms are a result of an imbalance going on in your body. And so your cycle changes can be clues into what's happening. So if you're regular but you're experiencing PMS that keeps you home from work or school, and again, it's not consistent month to month, these are signs. And I want to just point out that there is absolutely no shame in asking for help. The good news is that often changes in diet and lifestyle can help support bringing your body back into balance. So I just want to, throw it out there. Remember that your body is really, really smart. And sometimes we have to make changes that support the body's innate systems and get out of our own way. So one of the ways that we can do that is through nutrition. And that brings me to our next topic. So I'm going to start by saying that I don't believe that there's one diet that works for everyone. But if you are actively trying to conceive, the one thing that I do think is helpful is an anti-inflammatory diet. So things that you can do to reduce inflammation in your body, reduce refined sugar, and vegetable and seed oils. So those are canola, corn, cottonseed, soy, sunflower, safflower. These oils are causing a lot of inflammation in our bodies, and they're highly, highly processed. Our ancestors did not consume these oils. They consumed things, traditional fats like animal fats like tallow, lard, butter, grass-fed butter, ghee, in certain parts of the world, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil. So these are healthier fats that reduce inflammation. And so even though they're both fats, they can have completely different effects on the body. And so not all food you put into your body is equal, right? Calories are not equal. A bag of pretzel that's 100 calories and an apple that's 100 calories, I don't know if those are accurate, but they're not equal. One has fiber and vitamins and minerals, and one is refined and is going to spike your blood sugar levels. So just keep that in mind. Even though I do have recommendations for things that you could remove or cut back on, for me, it's more about mindset. So rather than changing your diet and viewing this as like restrictive, I like to have clients think about all that they're adding in and all the benefits that come from these changes, such as increasing fertility and increasing the chances of successful conception. So I like to work on mindset and think about how you're nourishing your body, not how you're restricting your body. So this is more about for pregnancy. Once you are pregnant, you're not eating for 2, but you're nourishing for 2. And this can start pre-conception because I mentioned it, I think earlier, you're improving your egg quality by increasing your nutrients. And so, well, calories don't really increase. You do want to increase the food you're eating to be more nutrient dense. Real quick lesson on macro versus micronutrients. You've probably heard macronutrients are your proteins, fat, and fiber or carbohydrates. This is what gives your body energy. So again, carbohydrates are going to break down into glucose and give your body energy that way. Also, the body can be fueled by fat. The problem is that our modern diets are severely lacking in nutrient-dense forms of fat that don't cause inflammation, which I already discussed. On the flip side, micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals that your body requires for so many functions going on. So, for example, magnesium, which isn't actually one that I will talk about today, but many of us are deficient in magnesium. It's responsible for well over 200 functions of the body. And many of these other nutrients that I'll discuss help the body function and support things like your reproductive system. So nutrients can boost the building of hormones, healthy hormones. You want your hormones to be balanced so that your reproductive system is functioning optimally. Real quick, again, there is no one diet that works for everyone, and because of that, I chose to focus on specific nutrients. That way, if you're a vegetarian or you have a nightshade allergy or you can't tolerate dairy, there are foods that you can look for that are rich in these nutrients that work for you specifically. I also just want to mention that, that your prenatal is not enough because you can't out-supplement a poor diet. I also want to say that if your gut health isn't great, because you're eating a lot of processed foods or sugar, you may actually have trouble absorbing the nutrients in supplement form, whereas these nutrients are way more easily absorbable from food. But going back to gut health, as someone with celiac disease, I had a lot of repairing to do to optimize my gut health so that I could actually absorb nutrients. So I think there was a time in my life I spent probably thousands of dollars in supplements that I probably wasn't even absorbing. And so going back to, even if you don't have celiac disease or gluten insensitivity, making sure your gut is working is great. And one good way to do that is making sure that you are having a bowel movement, at least one, every single day that isn't too loose or painful to pass. Okay, so I was pregnant almost 3 years ago, and I didn't even hear about choline until I dived into researching for becoming a preconception health coach. But choline is required for fetal development. It's also great for functioning of the placenta. It helps prevent neural tube defects. It shares a lot of the same nutritional benefits as folate, which a lot of people thinking about pregnancy have heard of folate or folic acid. So if you are not eating meat, you definitely want to make sure that your prenatal has choline. And again, not all prenatals are created equal. A lot of them do not have choline in it. But eggs are a great source, specifically the egg yolk. So make sure you're eating the whole egg. And I'm going to mention some foods that aren't popular today, but are really nutritionally beneficial that our ancestors ate a ton of, and that is liver and organ meats are way more nutrient dense than the muscle meat that we traditionally eat today. High quality grass-fed dairy can have some choline in it. And then to a lesser extent, there's some crucifers, which are your like cabbage, broccoli, kale, those kind of vegetables. Nuts and legumes also have a little bit of choline in it. All right, so folate, this is the one, it's best known for preventing birth defects. It's needed for the production of new DNA. So as you think about, I mentioned earlier, once an egg is fertilized, the cellular growth that is helping, or cellular division that is happening constantly, even in the first 2 to 4 weeks once that egg is fertilized before you even know you're pregnant. So again, we're going back and looking at why we're adding in these nutrients preconception is because you're building up those stores so that when you get pregnant, you don't have to worry about like being deficient. You're not coming from a place of deficiency. And that's why eating a nutrient dense diet can optimize having a healthier pregnancy, healthier birth outcome. And so, again, you might need these things before you even know you're pregnant. Also, building the nutrient stores before you conceive helps with things like nausea during pregnancy, specifically B6, which I don't mention on one of these slides, but B6 can help for nausea. So having that. B vitamins are also great for having a lot of energy because in that first trimester, you've experienced some exhaustion. And if you're experiencing morning sickness, the thought of food can be really hard, or you turn to those light foods that just are all you can handle in those first few weeks. And so it's important that as you're growing a human being from scratch, it's going to take the nutrients from somewhere. So you need to be replenishing those nutrients as soon as you can as well. Right, so folate, best known for preventing birth defects, great for the new DNA, cellular division, and also like production of healthy red blood cells. So when you think about pregnancy, you have a lot more blood circulating, and so the health of your red blood cells can be really important as well. So again, for preventing defects of the brain and spinal cord, you can find this in, if you think folate, foliage, so leafy greens. Again, I'm going to keep mentioning the liver. They do make supplements if you just know that you are not going to be able to get into eating liver, and legumes, specifically lentils. I think it's worth pointing out the difference between folate and folic acid. So folate is the vitamin that is naturally found in food sources, and it's in a form that your body is easily able to absorb. Folic acid, on the other hand, is a synthetic form that the supplement industry created to help moms who are deficient get this for pregnancy specifically. But a higher quality prenatal is going to include folate in its more natural form. which means the body can skip the step of having to convert it from folic acid to folate, and that's done through methylation. And I will say there is a group of people who do have a difficult time methylating folic acid to folate. And so it's, rather than like going to your doctor and saying, I need to get tested for the MTHFR gene, you could just look for a prenatal that has folate in it. And again, you can get folate through food sources as well. But because of the benefits for pregnancy, it's usually worth supplementing. All right, so B12. The B vitamins, the whole family of B vitamins, there's a lot of them, are really important for building healthy hormones. And again, when we have healthy hormones, our reproductive system is working optimally. We have more regular menstrual cycles. So think, ovulation occurs when estrogen spikes and progesterone. So you're building those healthy hormones. It's also needed for energy. I mentioned that. So if you're experiencing like chronic fatigue, that you wake up in the morning and you're just groggy and it's really hard to get out of bed, I highly recommend going and getting your B12 tested. B12 deficiency is also linked with an increased risk of neural tube defects as well as miscarriage. So if you've experienced a miscarriage previously, maybe B12 is worth checking, as well as your thyroid. So with miscarriage, I always recommend that women go and advocate for themselves with their doctors to get their thyroids tested. And because subclinical, like even if you're in the normal range, can still lead to adverse birth outcomes or miscarriage. So when you think about thyroid and being in normal range, there's normal range, and that's based on everyone who's going and getting their thyroid tested. They then create this range. But everyone who's getting their thyroid tested is probably doing that because they have some type of thyroid issue. And so you can Google this, look up thyroid optimal range, and that's a more narrow window. And especially for fertility, you could be within normal range, but there's like a more optimal range for fertility that you'll want to be in. So I, as someone with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid autoimmune disease, I'm a huge advocate for women getting their thyroids tested before pregnancy or if they've experienced any miscarriage or infertility issues. So B12 is only found in animal foods. And again, it's one of the other vitamins needed for methylation. It's needed for cell differentiation, organ formation. So really, if you are not someone who's eating any animal protein at all, you 100% want to supplement with vitamin B12. I'm a big advocate for food first and then supplementation, but with all the changes that you have going on in your body during pregnancy, it's well worth working with a knowledgeable healthcare provider to make sure that you're getting the nutrients you need. That's something else to mention, just because we're talking about nutrients. If you have experienced infertility, working with a healthcare provider to do a nutrient deficiency panel to see if you are nutrient deficient in anything. All right, so iron, this is one that is in some prenatals, not in other prenatals. I personally like that it's not in all prenatals because your needs may vary. There's two types of iron, heme iron and non-heme, and the one found in animal sources is way more easily absorbed by your body. Low iron status during pregnancy can cause risk of preeclampsia, hypothyroidism, preterm birth, and so it is worth getting your iron levels checked. So if you are deficient, so the maternal status of iron affects the iron status of the baby. If you are deficient, you could see fetal impairments in fetal brain development, stunted growth, and it can like think about this, while you're pregnant with your baby, if you have low iron, you are putting your baby at risk for like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure later in their adult life. And so your health status, pre-pregnancy and pregnancy, can affect your baby in adulthood. And I think that's really powerful. All right, DHA, also it is one of the omega-3 fatty acids, which you've probably heard are good for brain development. So those refined oils that I talked about, like the canola, the cottonseed, those are omega-6s. And then there's omega-3s, which are found in things like fatty fish, in plant sources like chia seeds. So these are essential fatty acids, both omega-3 and omega-6, but the ratio of them in the modern diet, omega-6 is way too high compared to where we were in the past, which is a more optimal ratio for our bodies to function properly. And so omega-6s you'll find a lot in processed foods because they're more shelf stable, whereas the omega-3 fatty acids are less shelf stable. But you want more omega-3s than omega-6, and currently it's the opposite. So omega-3 fatty acids, you want these because they're amazing for brain and eye development of the fetus. Again, there's some found in plant foods, the ALA, whereas the DHA is found in things like fatty fish. And so, again, animal foods are going to be more absorbable, more readily available for the body, and they also protect the baby's brain from cellular inflammation and damage. If you plan to breastfeed, maternal intake of DHA directly affects the amount that is found in breast milk. So if you're not planning on supplementing with this, or it's not in your prenatal, then I definitely recommend eating seafood like about 3 times a week. You want low mercury seafood, preferably wild caught, about 12 ounces minimum. And if you don't eat seafood at all, there is an algae-based DHA. It's the only plant source one. So well worth supplementing. Glycine. Glycine is one that you may not have heard of. It is an amino acid that's abundant in collagen, which you may have heard of collagen. So collagen is like really popular nowadays for hair health, skin health, nail health. It's great for gut health, and collagen is it is the most abundant protein in the human body. So it becomes essential during pregnancy. And so it means that an essential amino acid means that you have to obtain it through your diet in order to provide enough for the skeletal growth. You need to obtain it from your diet in order to provide enough to support the growth of your baby's skeleton, teeth, nails, internal organs, skin, hair. Think about it. You're literally creating something from nothing. And so it also supports your uterus stretching from like a pear to a watermelon. Your skin's going to stretch. Your placenta, you literally create an organ just to sustain another form of life. I think that's a pretty miraculous thing that we should celebrate about the human female body. And so glycine is really, really, really important. If you are not supplementing with it, you can get it from your diet through things like collagen-rich foods, such as the skin of, let's say you roast a chicken, keeping the skin on, eating the skin, and cooking meat, like slow bone-in meat. That's a great way to get some collagen. And then finally, bone broth. So if you made that roasted chicken, keep the carcass of it, throw it in your slow cooker or your Instant Pot. In an Instant Pot, it only takes 2 hours with some water, maybe some veggie scraps, and drink that regularly. I start my day with a cup of bone broth, and my 2-year-old son literally asks for bone broth, and I just know it's so good for him and so nourishing and great for his gut health. And so that's just a really important note that we are the models for our children. So developing these healthy habits pre-conception that we know we can carry into motherhood, we model the behavior that we want our babies to also do. So you can't expect a child to eat vegetables if you don't have vegetables on your plate. So there is some controversy around vitamin A with the increased risk of birth defects by having too much. I will say that that is linked to supplemental synthetic vitamin A and not naturally occurring vitamin A. So that doesn't have the same toxicity effect when you're consuming it in natural food sources, especially when it's linked with adequate levels of vitamin D and K2. So this is a good time to note that whole food sources, you're getting the nutrients in like a pretty little package that nature designed where these vitamins and minerals are working synergistically. And having adequate levels of D and K2 with vitamin A means you're absorbing it better, you're using it better. And so that's just important to note that food sources of vitamins, there's really that synergistic effect where you're getting a more complete food, more complete nourishment. So vitamin A is actually necessary for the differentiation of cells, tissues, and organs. So again, the cellular division. It's great for that, building that communication system between your brain and your different organs. So in modern medicine, we separate each organ kind of into its own field. Like endocrinology is, just the endocrine system, your thyroid. For like your skin, you may just go see a dermatologist, but I will say that I got diagnosed with celiac disease because I had acne. I had some other symptoms that I now realize were symptoms, but at the time I was just seeing a doctor and I was like, I'm 21, why do I still have acne? So the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside. Your menstrual cycle is a reflection of what's going on inside. Your brain is not its own thing. It's constantly communicating with your immune system, your gut, your ovaries, your reproductive system. So the body is all connected. And so vitamin A is really important to help develop those communication systems between all the organs. So vitamin D. Vitamin D is really important for the skeleton development of the fetus, and it really helps it helps things like calcium get where they need to go in your body. And I want to mention that pretty much most people are vitamin D deficient, especially in the winter, because our main source of vitamin D is from the sun. So if you are supplementing with vitamin D because you're not getting enough sunlight, which you should be, you should also take K2. So K2 helps vitamin D get from you across the placenta into also give the baby vitamin D. And the mother's status of vitamin D is directly correlated with the baby's status of vitamin D. So you want to make sure that those levels are adequate. And again, this is another example where not all prenatals are created equal. Making sure that your prenatal has some vitamin D in it could be very useful. So there are two types of vitamin K. One is the one that your baby most likely will get a shot of after they're born to help prevent with blood clotting, but it can't be converted in the body to K2, so you do need to get K2 through supplementation or foods. It's highly found in fermented foods like sauerkraut, and Also like fatty animal foods, so full fat dairy. It's really important to note that in the past there was like a fad of fat-free, but fat tastes really good, so when you remove the fat from the diet, most manufacturers are replacing it with things like sugar to make it taste good again. And so unsweetened full fat dairy is something that I highly recommend if you can tolerate dairy, because it's got more nutrients. And again, K2 and vitamin D, these are essential for proper bone mineralization and the development of your baby's skeleton. And vitamin C, so during pregnancy, your immune system is compromised so that your body doesn't accidentally attack the fetus, thinking it's foreign, something it needs to get rid of. And so just immune support through vitamin C can be really good, as well as noted here, the connective tissue support. Again, think about how much your body is stretching during this time. And vitamin E is a relatively newer nutrient being studied in prenatal nutrition. So based on rodent studies, it's believed that the human placenta creates a protein that transports vitamin E across the placenta to get it to the baby. And mice who lacked that gene for the protein to transport across the placenta often had miscarriages. So we're not quite sure how this works yet, but we are definitely seeing the benefits of it. The vitamin E content in grass-fed animals is 4 times higher than that of grain-fed animals. So this is a good moment to talk about the quality of the meat you're eating. If you are eating meat, which I do recommend, you should be looking for grass-fed sources of meat, like beef specifically. Pasture-raised chicken, meaning that chicken is outside getting sunlight, eating a more natural diet of things like bugs. And again, the reason that eggs from pasture-raised chickens are higher in nutrient is because they're getting that vitamin D and sunlight. And then if you're eating seafood, specifically wild caught. Vitamin E is also found in things like nuts and seeds, fresh fruits and veggies. A great source is extra virgin olive oil. And so with that, I like to tell people, like, they think if you're eating a salad, you're eating healthy. But if that salad is slathered in dressing that has canola or soybean oil, you're kind of like balancing it out in a bad way. So using extra virgin olive oil at room temperature and making your own salad dressings can be like one cool change that you make to just increase your nutrient levels if you are someone who eats a lot of salads. So again, I wanted to focus on nutrients because there are so many foods that you can Google that are high in those nutrients. But I also wanted to highlight some of the foods that are really good for fetal development and egg and sperm quality. I'll mention that as well. Getting your partner involved in these healthy diet changes is going to benefit their sperm quality and your egg quality. So when you put the healthier egg and the healthier sperm together, you have a healthier baby. So egg yolks, again, preferably pasture-raised. Liver, if you're not going to eat it, maybe supplement with it. Grass-fed meat, again, on the bone, you'll get more glycine. Vegetables, especially those leafy greens for the folate. Salmon, other fatty fish like sardines, shrimp, scallops, they're great. Full fat and fermented dairy. So instead of drinking like just a cup of milk, looking at things like the whole fat fermented yogurts or kefir. And specifically bone broth. So while I do recommend that I do believe that there's no one right diet for everyone, there are some challenges with the vegetarian and vegan diets supporting optimal nutrients from diet alone. And so working with a healthcare professional and make sure you're getting the supplements where necessary can be important. And as I said in the beginning, my background is in anthropology, so I find it really fascinating how other cultures use food during the childbearing years in a woman's life. That's a story for another day, but it's important to note that even though our environments have drastically changed in the past 10,000 years, our biology has been much slower to evolve. And so our digestive systems aren't much different than they were 10,000 years ago. And so a lot of the foods that I just shared on the previous slide are foods that are considered part of these ancestral diets. And these cultures still today that follow their ancestral diets, there's much, much lower rates of miscarriage and infertility. So I think that's just worth noting. And also drawing on my background in anthropology, and for those who don't know what anthropology is, it's the study of all humans across all times. And my background specifically is archaeology. So I do look at humans, how they lived in the past. And when you think about what a form of stress was for our ancestors, it would be things like being chased by a tiger, or things like famine. And so when there's not enough food, you don't have enough food coming in, maybe because the hunt was unsuccessful or it's winter and there's just less, your body goes into survival mode. And this is why a lot of women today don't see weight loss, because their body is in survival mode. When your body is in survival mode, it wants to hold on to that fat because it doesn't know when the next meal is coming. So even if you're eating calories, right? But not all calories are equal. So let's say you're eating, but your food that you're eating is nutrient deficient. Your body's saying, hey, where is my next meal? Like, I'm not getting what I need from this. So it's holding on to what fat it has because it just doesn't know when the next meal is coming. So famine is a source of stress on the body. So there's like that mental stress, and then there's like physical stress. So not getting enough food is a physical stress on the body. And when your body's in survival mode, it goes into that sympathetic nervous system. So that fight, flight, freeze. You've probably heard of that before. It's what your body does when there's perceived danger. Ideally, we want to go into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is known as the rest and digest. So if you are someone who says grace before dinner, this is a beautiful opportunity to just take a moment to become more mindful, instead of just shoving food in your mouth, because it puts the body in a state where it is ready to digest your food. So you want to be in the rest and digest nervous system state more often than the sympathetic one, of fight, flight, or freeze. So again, when you're in survival mode, your body takes the energy that is coming in from food and diverts it to things like making sure you continue to breathe, making sure that your heart is still pumping blood throughout your body, goes towards your brain to continue communication as much as possible. But it might shut off something like ovulation, because if you don't have enough food to fulfill your nourishment, adding a pregnancy to that not really going to be beneficial at that time in your life. So this brings me to our next topic, why self-care is extremely important for trying to conceive. And why self-care? We've all heard the saying, you can't fill from an empty cup. And so in order to provide for those around us that we care for, we need to fill our cup first. I like to think of it as continuously filling your cup so that it's overflowing. So self-care needs to be more than just a spa day here or there to fill your cup every once in a while, so that it can then be emptied. Self-care needs to be a continuous flow into your cup. It needs to become part of your daily lifestyle. This looks different for everyone. So while one person may enjoy yoga, someone else likes kickboxing or something more high intensity. You may wind down for the evening by taking a bath, or someone else really enjoys reading a book. So there are many different ways that people enjoy spending time on themselves. I, for the purpose of this, wanted to choose self-care tips that would be beneficial for everyone, no matter what. Again, stress isn't just mental. So it's worth taking some time to do an inventory of your stress load. Again, wrong types of exercise, other things like food sensitivities, that's a physical stress on your body because your body is saying that food doesn't feel good to me right now. So going back to making this connection between self-care and food, being more mindful to put your body in a rested state before you eat allows you to be more aware of how certain foods affect your body. So eating something and then saying, wow, I actually don't feel good after I ate that meal. I'm not saying, again, restrict your whole diet. I'm just saying you can then come from a place of awareness of how certain foods either fuel your body or make you feel less vibrant. Other things like environmental toxins can be really important. This is things like the air we breathe, the water we drink, what cookware we're using, cleaning products, personal care products, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But also physical stress of like how your body perceives looking at a screen late at night when it's dark outside and you have this blue light coming from your phone, your TV, your computer. It disrupts your circadian rhythm. So that is also something to consider. And going back to the ancestral ties, your body doesn't know the difference between being chased from a tiger or like a work deadline. So either way, like being chased by a tiger or have a deadline coming up at work, like the body's going into that fight or flight survival mode. And so we need to bring it back and take care of ourselves. So tip number 1, clean up your environment. I'm going to do 3 tips tonight. And basically, if you've learned anything from this talk tonight, I want you to go and implement one of the 3 tips rather than trying to do all the things all at once. That can be extremely overwhelming, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So tip number 1 is looking at your personal care and cleaning products. For me, society has led us to believe that things need to smell a certain way in order for them to be clean. So even if you don't want to give up your Yankee candles or your favorite lotion forever, I do suggest seriously thinking about how you can increase your chance of conceiving by removing them at least temporarily during this time of your life. Personally, for me, anything with the word fragrance in it is a no in our house. There's very little regulation around what fragrance is. I like to call it a chemical slurry. I'm actually really sensitive to certain smells. Like if my husband changes his deodorant, even if it's a naturally occurring natural fragrance like essential oils, I immediately know he's changed his deodorant because I smell it. Other ingredients of caution are parabens and phthalates. So these are endocrine disruptors which mimic estrogen in the body. So as you can imagine, they can wreak havoc on the reproductive system. And if you're trying to conceive, that is something that you don't want. The good news is though that in as little as 3 days, if you start reducing that toxic burden on your body by removing certain products, you'll see benefits. It can take as little as 3 days to start removing them. And I will say, there have been cases and studies done where they find these toxins in the umbilical cord. So if you're putting it on your body, I think it takes about 26 seconds for whatever you're putting on your body to absorb. Just know that when you're pregnant, that can be transferred to your child. Number 2 is sleep. So for me, sleep is like the most radical form of self-care. Prioritizing this should be something that everyone does. I don't know about you, but I feel a million times better after a good night's sleep. So aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep, if you're not currently getting that, is a good goal. So again, I want you to walk away from this trying to do one of these 3 tips. So whether that's cleaning up your environment with toxins or prioritizing sleep. So how can you prioritize sleep? Turning off your phone 30 minutes to an hour before bed is a great place to start if you're someone who has to work. Getting blue light blocking glasses, but really my favorite is also, it helps to get more vitamin D, but getting more natural sunlight during the day. So trying to get out first thing in the morning, maybe midday for a walk on your lunch break, and then at night, maybe as the sun is setting. So your circadian rhythm is getting that natural light, and it's telling your body, okay, we're getting ready to slow down for the day and get ready to go to sleep. Something else, if you have a pink light lamp, pink salt lamp at home, you can use that as your light at night. That soft tone mimics things like maybe a campfire, which is what our ancestors would have had to use for light in the evening. And so that can be really just peaceful and restorative as well. And the third one is meditation, but I also wanted to include mindfulness because meditation can seem really intimidating for people. So if you aren't ready to meditate every day, just being more mindful. So like, again, going back to that meal and taking a moment to pause, and maybe if you don't say grace, say something that you're grateful for that day. We do that in my family. We all go around the table. Even my 2-year-old will say what he's grateful for that day. Sometimes it's being outside. Sometimes it's grandma and pop. And so it's really beautiful that I truly believe he understands what he's saying he's grateful for at 2 years old, because again, we're modeling that behavior. So if you have never tried meditation before, I just want to say that 5 minutes a day is better. 5 minutes every day is better than like 30 minutes once a week. You can take advantage of things like apps. My favorite right now is Insight Timer. I've also used Calm and Headspace, so it's worth, doing a few of the guided meditations on there to see if you like any of them. And then if you, rather than sitting there with your eyes closed and listening to something, one tool that I use is called square breathing. And this is great to do as you're laying in bed, getting. Sorry about that. It looks like I'm just experiencing a disconnect between my 2 monitors. Okay, I think we're back. So with square breathing, just gonna pause the share real quick. Okay, and the video back on. Now it's on a different screen. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so square breathing. It is when you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you hold for 4 seconds before you take your next breath in. So that's just a really quick tool. If you want to try more mindful breathing, you can give that a go. Okay, so really quick, I want to walk you through a guided meditation that I personally really enjoy. It's one that I do for myself. I call it the self-love meditation. And so I want you to get into a comfortable position. Place one hand on your chest One hand on your belly. Take some big, deep cleansing breaths in through your nose, and you're going to sigh it out through your mouth. So in through your nose. One more, just like that. And now I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. So in through the nose and out through the nose, and you can close your eyes at this time. And as you breathe in, just continue at your own pace, in through the nose, out through the nose. And I want you to feel the hand on your stomach rise as you breathe in. So really getting that deep, deep breath deep in your belly. And breathe out. Feel your belly contract. So think about your belly button going back to your spine. So breathe in, feel your hand lift. And then as you contract, feel your belly button go back to your spine. So continuing like that, again at your own pace. The hand on your chest, you can acknowledge the beating of your heart. As you breathe in, belly expands. As you breathe out, think about giving your heart a hug. So your diaphragm gives it a little squeeze. And as we wrap up this meditation, I want you to repeat the following two phrases to yourself. I love you. And thank you for taking this time to focus on you today. And when you're ready, in your final out breath, you can open your eyes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and took some time to do it at home. And as a thank you for watching this masterclass, I just want to share with you that in the next, from when I send out this recording, because I had some malfunctions, it's going out later than I wanted to. But for the next 48 hours or so, I think I'll keep it open until Friday, April 23rd, 2021. So those who originally registered for this, I'm offering a special bonus to anyone who wants to enroll to work with me one-on-one. So what that looks like, I have 6 and 9 month programs available. Ideally, we would spend the first 3 to 4 months improving your diet and lifestyle to really support fertility, which would implement a lot of the things we talked about today. But because it's a one-on-one program, we would take into consideration your unique obstacles and what it looks like to work with me one-on-one. We would have bi-weekly one-on-one sessions that last about 60 minutes. And additionally, there would be optional group coaching sessions for additional support and added community. So really that trying to conceive journey can be extremely lonely if you're not ready to tell your family or close friends because you may be worried about things like infertility or miscarriage or taking a while. You just don't want all the extra questions. So these optional group coaching sessions would occur weekly. So you could have up to 6 sessions with me per month. You'd also have unlimited support and accountability between sessions through Voxer. So you can send me voice messages or text messages anytime you have any questions. And I am available to do any extra research for tools, tricks, and tips to help you navigate what is going to work for you specifically. So yeah, I do only have limited spots available due to the fact that this is a part-time job for me. I do have a full-time job as well, but this is what I'm truly, truly passionate about. And so I only have 7 spots available. So you're going to want to act quick to reserve one of those spots to work with me one-on-one. And on that note, during the group coaching sessions, because I only have 7 spots available, those are really intimate opportunities to either learn by asking questions or learn from other women who are asking questions. But because it's small, everyone should have an opportunity to talk. And the way that you would do that is applying. You can go to my website, anourishingpath.com, or go to my Instagram at A Nourishing Path and click the link in my bio to fill out an application. And once I get your application, you'll be prompted to schedule a free fertility discovery session with me. And so what a free fertility session is, again, for a limited time only. So free fertility sessions are always free. So if you're kind of questioning if you want that added support to work with someone one-on-one to boost your fertility and optimize your chances of conceiving naturally, let's hop on a call. The link to just do that alone, if you want to do that call first before you actually apply for the one-on-one program, that link is also in my bio on Instagram. And I'll send this all out with this recording in the email. So first, if you schedule a free fertility session with me before Friday or up until Friday, because you've watched this masterclass, as a special thanks for coming or watching the replay, if you enroll in your Nourish Path to Motherhood, which is my one-on-one program, you're going to receive a personally curated wellness bundle to support your trying to conceive journey for me. This bundle is valued at $300. It's going to include some of my favorite fertility awareness books, my favorite prenatal nutrition book, a basal body temperature thermometer, my favorite magnesium lotion for supporting restful sleep and also that stress response. And again, the rest of the items in there are going to be personally curated by me after our fertility session, our free fertility session. So this wellness bundle is for those who enroll in the program, but first, before they enroll, they schedule their free fertility session with me. So no commitment to enroll. This session is about 30 to 45 minutes. And what we're going to talk about in there is your unique situation, where you are in your trying to conceive journey. Are you working on baby number 1, baby number 2? Have you experienced miscarriages? So things like that. You know, we'll discuss, do you know when you're currently ovulating? And I just want to put it out there that, again, no obligation to enroll with me. All you have to do to be considered for this wellness bundle is schedule that free fertility session between now and Friday. The session does not have to take place before Friday. You just have to schedule it. So I am going to send out the link. I'm going to post this. It will be underneath the video wherever I post it. And if you're receiving this masterclass recording in an email, it will be there as well. So thank you again for your time watching this masterclass. And again, for those who did attend live and are now watching the recording back, I'm just extremely grateful for you taking this time out of your day to not only learn from me, but also just taking that time for yourself to prepare for your trying to conceive journey. So I am honored to be a part of that. And if you learned something today, all the better. So have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, depending on when you're watching this. Thank you so much.